You forgot to fill the feeder this morning. You noticed it around 9, maybe 10, when the yard was already quiet and the seed tray was sitting bare in the light. You told yourself you would get to it later. You probably did. But in the hours between empty and full, something happened in your yard that most people never think about, and it had nothing to do with whether the birds found food somewhere else. The birds that know your yard were not just hungry this morning. They were recalculating. They were updating a score they have been keeping on you since the first day they found your feeder. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what that score looks like, how it is built, and what you can do starting tomorrow morning to make sure your yard stays at the top of it. Your feeder is not a feeding station. It never was. Every bird that has found your yard and returned to it more than once is treating that feeder as a data point in a foraging map they are actively maintaining and constantly revising. Researchers tracking black-capped chickadees across residential neighborhoods found that individual birds maintain working accuracy scores for up to 200 separate food locations at the same time. Your feeder is one entry in a map that is precise, and every single morning it is either moving up that map or dropping down it. The mechanism behind this is called patch reliability assessment. In plain terms, a bird does not just remember where food is, it remembers how consistently food was there across every visit it has made. That consistency score updates in real time. A feeder that is full on arrival earns positive weight. A feeder that is empty on arrival earns negative weight. Not dramatically, not permanently, but the math is always running. What this means for you specifically is that your yard has a score right now. You did not set it intentionally. You built it through your routine, your consistency, your mornings when you got there early, and the mornings you did not. The birds in your yard know your reliability better than you do. This morning, when that tray sat empty, the score moved. The question is how far and what happens next. Within the first 2 hours of an empty feeder, your most regular visitors do not disappear. They investigate. Chickadees and nuthatches in particular are documented to make brief return visits to a familiar source even after confirming it is empty, as though double-checking the result. They land, verify, and leave. They are not hoping. They are updating. There is a difference. The bird that checked your empty feeder this morning and left in 4 seconds was not being skittish. It was delivering a verdict. What pulls them away is a principle behavioral ecologists call the marginal value theorem. The idea that every animal is constantly calculating whether the time spent at a given location is worth the energy cost and the risk of being in the open. In plain terms, an empty feeder costs the bird something. Time, exposure, energy. When the return is zero, the cost still exists. So the bird leaves and redistributes that time to a source with a better recent record. There is something quietly unsettling about understanding this for the first time. The birds were not just hungry. They were making a rational decision about whether you were worth waiting for. And the yard 2 houses down that fills on time every morning was already part of that calculation. You were competing for the same birds and did not know there was a competition. Now consider what happens in the 40 minutes after you finally refill the feeder. This is the part most people never watch closely enough because it looks like birds returning. It is not just birds returning. It is a structured sequence, and that sequence carries information you can read. The first bird back is rarely the most dominant visitor in your yard. It is a scout. Chickadees consistently function as early adopters in mixed foraging groups, testing a reformed food source before the rest of the local population commits to it. That first bird lands, feeds briefly, scans, and leaves. Within minutes, if it fed without alarm, others follow. Not because they saw the seed, because they saw the bird feed without consequence. This is social information transfer, and it is one of the most reliable forces operating in your yard every single morning. Your regular visitors are not making independent decisions. They are watching each other and adjusting. The bird that stayed longest at your feeder this morning was broadcasting safety to every bird within visual range. You provided the seed. The birds provided the endorsement. Your history with them was working even when you were not paying attention to it. Before tonight, move your water source to within arm's reach of the feeder, not across the yard, right beside it. Studies on foraging patch assessment show that birds weight the presence of water adjacent to a food source as a significant positive quality signal. Clean water next to reliable seed raises the overall score of that patch in ways that seed alone cannot. Tomorrow morning, stand back from the window and watch whether the first bird checks the water before or after the seed. That sequence tells you exactly where your yard currently ranks. A bird that drinks first is comfortable. A bird that feeds urgently and leaves without drinking is still deciding whether to trust the location again. The birds that do not come back immediately after a gap are not the ones you should worry about most. Pay attention to which species return first. Smaller birds, chickadees, titmice, nuthatches, typically have tighter territorial ranges than larger species like mourning doves or blue jays. A bird with a tight territory has fewer alternatives. Your feeder represents a larger fraction of its total foraging map than it does for a wide-ranging species. That loyalty has a number attached to it. The small bird that shows up every morning at the same time, within the same 10-minute window, is the bird most dependent on your consistency. Its routine is built around yours. When your routine breaks, its foraging day has to restructure around the gap. That is not a small thing for a bird operating on the energy margins that small songbirds live on. Understanding that does not create guilt. It creates clarity about what the relationship you have been building actually costs the other participant. The birds that seem most loyal are not the most forgiving. They are the most invested. An investment cuts both ways. Now scale this up past your own yard. Your feeder exists inside a neighborhood foraging network that the local bird population has mapped in more detail than you can see from your window. Every yard with a feeder has a score. Every gap, every refill, every reliable morning contributes to a collective picture of which locations in a half-mile radius are worth the risk of an open perch visit. A yard that has been reliable for months broadcasts that reliability in ways that extend beyond the birds already using it. The accumulated signs around a well-used feeder, seed casings on the ground, worn perch surfaces, the activity patterns of birds coming and going, function as prospecting cues for birds scouting new territory. A new bird passing through your neighborhood is reading your feeder before it lands. It sees a structure that shows evidence of consistent use, or it sees one that does not. You are either growing your network or shrinking it. There is no position in between. The morning you forgot to refill was one data point. The 60 mornings before it were also data points. The question worth sitting with is which record is longer. Here is what you can now read from the outside in. Everything covered so far has been about what the birds know about your yard. Now reverse the direction. The behavior you see at your feeder tomorrow morning is not random bird activity. It is a live readout of your yard's current standing in the local foraging network. A bird that lands and stays, feeds slowly, looks around without alarm, and returns to the feeder more than once is telling you your yard has a high reliability score right now. A bird that lands, takes one seed, and leaves without settling is telling you the score is uncertain. A yard where birds wait at the edge before approaching is a yard that has accumulated some recent negative weight. You do not need a study to read this. You need to watch for 10 minutes without looking at your phone. Within the next 24 hours, you can recalibrate your own reading of your yard. Go outside before the light fully settles tomorrow morning. Fill the feeder, go back inside, and watch the first 3 birds that arrive. Notice whether they settle or dart. Notice whether they stay through a second feeding or leave after one seed. Notice whether they call while they feed. A bird vocalizing at a feeder is a bird signaling safety to others, and that signal is one of the clearest indicators that your yard score is climbing back in the right direction. Your yard has been running a conversation with the birds that find it since the first feeder went up. Every morning was a sentence in that conversation. You wrote most of them without knowing you were writing anything. Now you know what they said. That empty tray this morning was one sentence. The record around it is much longer, and the birds have been keeping it more carefully than you realized. Think back to the quiet yard you walked past at 9 or 10 this morning. Same feeder, same trees, same light, but the silence had a shape to it that you can now read. It was not absence. It was a pause in a relationship that the birds entered more deliberately than you did, and one they are willing to continue if the next sentence gives them a reason to. You are not a bystander in your yard anymore. You are a variable. The birds have always known that. Now you do too. Tomorrow morning, fill the feeder before the sun clears the trellis. Then go inside, stand back from the window, and watch the first bird that arrives. Count the seconds it stays before it either settles in or leaves. That single number is your yard's current reliability score made visible. Leave that number in the comments and tell me what species showed up first. Nature is talking. Now you know how to listen.